We're on a mission from God.
And now for something completely different.
Let's get ready to rumble! Yeah, baby, yeah!
This is Pastor Jolly John Lekumsky from St. Paul's Lutheran Church in New Athens, Illinois, and Trinity Lutheran Church in Darmstadt, Illinois.
And I'm Pastor Matt Youngblood Clark from Ascension Lutheran Church in beautiful South St. Louis.
And this is
Wrestling with the Basics.
And we have some exciting episodes as we get into the summer months now. Kids are all home from school. They'll appreciate this, I think, because we're going to do a whole focus the next 3 weeks on dumb guys.
Isn't that a focus every Saturday, John, on Wrestling with the Basics?
Now that you mention it, it really isn't a change from our normal programming. But, well, we're going to make a special focus on
Highlight dumb guys. That's good. Okay,
guys.
Put the spotlight on the dumb guys.
All right, so I get the spotlight this week, and then Matt, you're going to share something with us.
Oh, how exciting!
From your own life next week, right?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Right.
I'd be happy to share that with our listening audience. It's worldwide. John, thanks for asking.
Well, you know, we do this bit occasionally, what dumb guys think, but I want to share you a story with what this dumb guy did. So we're in Deerbergs. We're in the grocery store. Have you ever had Cotswold cheese?
I can't say that I have.
Oh, okay. Well, go.
We live a simple life, John.
Well, I'm sure there's a cheese dealer close to you in St. Louis, there by Ascension. So go to your local cheese
Cheddar,
dealer.
Swiss.
Oh, no. Ask for the Cotswold. It is a cheddar, and it has just a tad of onion in it.
Oh, boy.
It's actually made in Cotswold, England. That's where it gets its name. It makes a great grilled cheese sandwich. Take a little regular cheddar, take a slice of the Cotswold, put it together. It is the best.
Sound good.
It is the best grilled cheese you've ever had. By the way, don't use butter, but use mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
It's the best grilled cheese.
But you are full of all sorts of culinary delights today.
So anyway, but Cotswold is really hard to find. That's what I'm saying. If you find it, buy some. So we're in Deerbergs, and they've got the Cotswold. They've got it right there in the Deerbergs, which they usually don't. And on top of it, they have this little box with the little pieces of Cotswold cut up. And I thought, well, this is great. They are giving us free samples of the Cotswold.
Of the fancy cheese.
So I open up the little plastic box. I take out one for myself and one for Lynn. And, of course, joker that I am, you know, I sneak up to Lynn and say, don't, I stole some cheese. Don't tell anybody I stole some cheese, but here, have a sample. They got Cotswold, but don't, quick, eat it quick before they see us. You know, I'm having my fun. Fun.
Yeah,
so
Jolly John.
So we go to the cheese case there to pick up our Cotswold. Lynn picks up the little plastic box and notices on the bottom there is a price tag. So actually, literally, I had stolen cheese.
You stole the cheese.
They could have thrown me in irons and put me in the old Gray Bar Hotel. I came that close. We bought the box, by the way. We did. But anyway, so that's my dumb story. You know.
If you have Jolly John over to your house, hide the cheese. If you got the good Cotswold cheese, your European fancy cheese, be sure to hide it.
Or at least put the price tag on it where I can see it. I thought it was a box of samples. How was I supposed to know? So we will have more dumb stories from Matt. I'm excited because I don't know what your dumb story is going to be, but that'll be for next week. And now we have a story about dumb people in the Bible.
Perfect. Look at that. What a great lead-in.
It's a theme.
What a segue.
It's a segue, yeah. Isn't a segue one of those things you ride around?
Right. Yes, it is.
Okay.
So there's dumb people in the Bible, huh?
Yeah, there is.
That makes me feel better about myself.
Well, I tell you what, it should make all of us feel better, I think. Genesis chapter 11 is the story we want to do today. The Tower of Babel or Babel. Which is it, Matt?
But, I don't know. I Babel, Babel, tomato, whatever.
You say potato, I say potato. So,
what do you say? You say Babel, right?
I don't know.
You're a Babel man?
I've actually gone back and forth between Babel and Babel.
Okay, yeah.
Same sermon, and I think people are, what is he talking about?
It's the same.
But Let's read
It's
it.
the same place.
Let's read it. Yeah. Enough talking about. Oh, wait. Maybe we should do that.
Oh,
Where is
yeah.
it?
Yeah,
We
you're
gotta have our
doing
sound
the
effects.
sound effects today.
All right, now,
Thank
there's
you.
no time for foolishness.
All right. So you want to start reading here? You've done this story before, haven't you?
Well, yeah. So this is a classic. It's usually in your Sunday school stories and the whole thing. But I think, there's some good connections, though, as we'll see next week, to other places in the Bible, too, when it comes to the Tower of Babel or Babel.
So we got two teasers. They need to come back to see how it's connected to the New Testament and also to
hear my
your
dumb story.
Your dumb story. Oh, but, I'm glad you mentioned that, though, because before we begin it, I just remembered what we don't think about is the context that this story comes in, right? Because we get it in Sunday school, but it just comes out of nowhere.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Our high schoolers at Ascension right now are going through the whole book of John.
Oh, cool.
And some of them are saying, oh, wait a second, I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
And it's exactly because of that, because sometimes in Sunday school or vacation Bible school, which, by the way, at Ascension this week, we have vacation Bible school.
Oh,
listeners.
cool. Don't miss out on that.
It's free, 9 to noon. But
Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday.
What time
Love to
again?
have you, 9 to noon.
Just show up,
Just
right?
show up,
Okay.
free of charge. You'll have a great time. Yeah.
At Ascension there. What's the
Yes.
address?
It is 5347 Donovan Avenue, right across
Okay.
from Francis Park, right by, guess what? Ted Drew's. Okay, I have a point to this.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So my point is, sometimes in Sunday school lessons or even vacation Bible school lessons, you have this lesson that's wonderful and rich and full of meaning, but yet it's really in isolation to the rest of the scriptures. And so our high schoolers, as they read through the Gospel of John, they're saying, hey, wait a second, we've never heard this part. And, oh, wow, look at that. For instance, we talked about raising Lazarus from the dead.
Oh, yeah,
and then
great story.
There's a little detail that now they're out not just to get Jesus, but they're out to get Lazarus, the Pharisees and others. And they're like, whoa, I never saw that before. So I think that your comment's an important one, that the Tower of Babel, rather than just looking at it isolated as just this account floating around somewhere in the Old Testament, to look at the context in which it happens. I think it adds to the meaning, too.
So, Mr. Smarty Pants.
Smarty Pants.
What is the context? What's happened? That's happened immediately before the Tower of Babel.
Some dumb people earlier.
It's all about the dumb people.
About the dumb people.
This June in Wrestling with the Basics.
So things get bad, really bad, so much that the Lord floods the world.
It's the flood,
the flood. And so he, out of his grace and mercy, he does preserve Noah and his family and keeps them safe and in his care in that ark. And now we fast forward some generations to the Tower of Babel. And we see, boy, after the flood, perhaps things haven't changed all that much.
Well, now here's the interesting thing, too, talking about things not changing much, and again, about dumb guys. What's the dumb thing that Noah does right after the flood? And this is Noah. This is God's chosen righteous man. Remember what he does?
Well, he gets drunk, right? Is that the one you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about,
So he gets drunk, and that leads to trouble, of course, as you can imagine. It's kind of a dumb thing to do. But we think of Noah, and oh boy, this example of faith and faithfulness, and it certainly is. But even Noah, even this faithful guy that God had preserved, does dumb things.
Well, and like you said, it gets worse because his son Ham comes in, sees him naked, runs out and says to his brothers, hey, guess what? Dad's naked and drunk in the tent. Come on, look.
Yeah.
And of course, his two brothers, though, Shem and Japheth, they're much more respectful of their dad. They go in and cover him up, walk in backwards.
Isn't that something? I know.
So they don't add any shame to their father.
Yes.
And so right before we have the whole Tower of Babel, we have the curses and the blessings, as it were, because Ham and his descendants get cursed, and they become the traditional enemies of Israel. They become the Egyptians who enslaved the Israelites until, of course, the Egyptians themselves are destroyed in the Red Sea, and Ham's descendants become the Canaanites that take over the Promised Land until, again, the Israelites come and drive them out. Japheth becomes, his name means enlarged, and he becomes these great descendants that take over Europe, India. You and I, we're probably, you're from Europe, aren't you? So we're descendants of Japheth. Yep. So he becomes this great enlarged group of people that populate a good portion of the world. And poor old Shem, he doesn't really have that many descendants to boast about, but of course he is the promised one.
Yes.
From him will come Eber, who is the from where we get the name Hebrews, and we get Abraham and Isaac and Jesus, of course. So the reason I'm bringing this up is Luther thinks that this story about the Tower of Babel is a story about Ham's descendants. Okay. In fact, Luther's. Well, start reading here.
Interesting. So it zeroes in on that one son of.
So this is what
Noah.
happens to the people who have been cursed because they shame their father.
Yeah.
But read the verse here, because Luther has another strange thought here.
Chapter 11, verse 1.
Yeah.
And now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there.
So Luther actually interprets that as what's happened is the promised people, God gave it to Shem, and so they have the promised land, but now Ham and his descendants are kind of moving in on them, moving in onto the territory of his brother Shem, and that's what Luther sees as kind of the background of this story. I don't know. Do you agree with that? I'm not sure.
We don't get the details.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we
really
could speculate, and Luther, usually pretty bright guy, right?
Yeah,
but at the same time, we just don't get the details. I do think it's interesting. It is clear that the whole earth has one language, and I think that's important. So whether we're talking Ham or Shem or Japheth or whoever, at this time there's that one common language, which makes sense. They had just been on the ark. These are the generations after, so they're all speaking the same thing.
And I can see where Luther might have concluded that this is the descendants of Ham described here, because these people are obviously people that are not people of faith. But we can see that in their words and their actions. Well, okay, now I think we've kind of set up the story. But anyway, that was the background, that we've got these divisions going on. And now we have some dumb people.
And on the other hand, even faithful people do dumb things too, like Noah. So maybe these were Shem's descendants, and they're just being dumb. But
and when we get to the end of the story, remind me about that, because I think the problem with these three sons of Noah, and I've actually read people do this, that, okay, so we got Japheth, and they're kind of the neutral people, right? And then we've got Shem, of course, they're the good people, the ones that are blessed by God. Yep. And then we've got Ham, and those are the evil and the wicked
and the
people.
Bad guys, yeah.
And we do that. We kind of divide the world up. Oh, those people over in the Middle East. Oh, those are your descendants of Ham. Those are maybe the people in Africa. Oh, those are the evil. Of course, us good Europeans, we're the descendants of Shem. We're the good guys. And that, of course, is not the point at all. That's not the point at all. And in fact, I guess I'll go ahead and make my point now. From Shem, we have a man by the name of Terah. You remember Terah? Mm-hmm. And he is noted because he is an idolater. Yeah. So even the descendants of Shem, they end up forgetting God. They end up, worshiping false gods. And yet the neat thing is God still remains faithful to the people, because Terah ends up having a boy by the name of Abraham, who becomes the synonymous with faith, and the one by whom all nations will be blessed, and who actually, I'm jumping the gun.
But you're right. And the descendants of Shem also include Sadducees and Pharisees and people who sought to kill Jesus.
That's right, the very people,
all sorts. It's sinners and saints mixed into each one of those groups.
So there are dumb people everywhere.
Sort of the moral of the story.
Including you who are listening.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We won't name names. But you know who you are.
I know who you are. All right, read the story.
Okay. And the people said to one another, "Let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar.
No, that's not dumb. Bricks, mortar. In fact, that's a smart thing to have mortar with your bricks.
That makes sense. So three little pigs. Isn't that what the smart little pig? He builds his house with bricks, right? Not the sticks or the hay. So.
Exactly. This is smart. This is good.
If someone huffs and puffs, they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
All right. So far, so good. All right, then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens. And let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth."
Now here's where the dumbness comes, Matt.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it says, "Let us build ourselves a city." So no concern for God, no prayer to the Lord, no asking God if this is what he would like or if this is the proper thing for them to do. It's just their own project. It's what they're going to undertake all on their own. It is exactly, of course, what you and I do as dumb people and the people listening to us. We got our plans, whatever suits us. We don't think about, is it pleasing to God? Is it loving to the neighbor? It's just what we want. A very common dumb thing to do. Any other comments about let us ourselves do this?
Well, I think that just those achievements that we can do with our human hands and our intellect, that always trips us up. I think modernism, I think that was a big issue. I think of things like the Titanic. Build this grand ship, the Titanic, and look at what we've done. Unsinkable. Not even God himself could sink the ship, and then look what happens. Yeah, that's the ship. That's what I thought. Who needs sound effects?
That's right.
So, but you see that time and time again, and still today, that through our ingenuity, our smarts, we're going to do this without consulting the Lord, like you said. Is this God pleasing? Without certainly giving glory to God that He's the one that's given us the intellect and the strength and all those gifts to do that.
If God does not build the building, the laborers labor in vain.
That's exactly right. So, and then as they go on, what's the purpose of building this?
Yeah, go ahead, because that's the second dumb thing.
To make a name for, not God, for ourselves.
Yep. And to make it so that it's up into the heavens.
See? Yes.
Yeah. So that's like we got to do something to get up to God. We'll show God. We'll impress Him. When of course that's the greatest error of all religions, that we have to have a project, a work, an activity, something we got to do to get to God. Because as we're going to say in a moment, no, God comes down to us. You don't need to build a tower to get up to Him. You don't need to make a name for yourselves. He comes to you. He gives you the name that you need to have.
Yeah.
But here comes the really, really dumb thing. It's the last part of that verse. Read the last part of that verse again.
So we'll make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the whole face of the earth.
Now, Matt, I had the opportunity of preparing this. I hope people understand this. I prepare one, Matt prepares one. The other guy has no idea what's going on.
Believe it or not, someone is preparing something each week.
It is hard. That might be too bad. Well, so do you know what the really dumb thing is about saying that we don't want to be dispersed over the ends of the earth?
Okay, I think I might know.
Okay,
I might know.
All right.
So, when Adam and Eve,
yes,
and then even with Noah again, right?
Yeah.
That God says, "Well, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it," and here they're doing just the opposite of that.
And thank you for emphasizing it was the first thing that was given to Adam and Eve. And after the flood, it was the only commandment they were given. And now they want to do just the opposite. Okay.
Yeah.
So people, that maybe goes beyond dumb. When you do just the opposite of what God tells you to do, that probably goes beyond dumb. And it does raise the question that I know God puts up with dumb people. He puts up with me all the time. But can He put up with the people who intentionally do just the opposite of what He's told them to do? Well, let's continue reading the story.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
It sort of strays, and it's no longer dumb. It's now in that realm of sin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, verse 5. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of man had built.
And so that's the point we already made. It's not like we have to get up to God. He comes down to us. And I think we need to clarify, Matt, it's not that God didn't know what was going on before, that God wasn't there. I've got to make my wife happy here. Lynn loves the word ubiquitous. She does.
I'm not surprised. That sounds like a Lynn word. The smart
she would
gal.
like. Yeah, because she's not dumb. She's smart. But you know what the word ubiquitous means, right? Present everywhere. And we Lutherans are ubiquitarians because we believe God is present everywhere. But I think the sense of the Hebrew here, what it says He comes down, is that sure He's there, sure He knows what's going on, but now He's going to do something.
Yeah.
He's going to take action.
Yeah.
And don't make me come down there.
Yeah, look at that. And that's exactly what God does. Yeah.
So keep on reading. Keep on reading.
Okay. I think just real quick, verse 5. I think it's interesting. He calls them the children of man. That's kind of interesting too. The children of man, and if we're thinking of man, well, who the man is Adam in his fallen state. The children of Adam, so they're not called children of God certainly here, but children of man. So I don't know how significant that is, but it is interesting.
Oh no, man, Matt. See again, I didn't even think of that. I'm glad you brought that up because it answers our question. So is this Ham? Is this Shem? Is it Japheth?
It's the children of man.
Yeah. That's what they all got in common.
Whether it's one of those three or two or all the above, they're still children of man.
It makes
ultimately.
No difference. This is the problem. They are all those that have inherited sin from Adam. Yeah. Good point.
And the Lord said, Behold, they are one people, and they all have one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them.
And again, I think we need to clarify this. It's not like God says, oh man, this is a hopeless situation. But God is saying, if something doesn't happen, if I don't come down, if I don't intervene, yeah, these people are going, nothing will be impossible for them. And trust me, that's not a good thing. And maybe because, like you highlighted, these are the children of men. We know what they do. We saw that right away with Cain and Abel. And so if somebody doesn't step in here, they're going to do mean and nasty things, and it just will be more than you can dream or imagine. And that's what made me think, Matt, this has actually been played out in history. Wherever men have come together to make their names great, united in a language or a nationality or in a race, we have done horrible things to the other people around us. So I was thinking of the English Empire. At one point, it was said that the sun did not set on the English Empire. Mm-hmm. But you know how they got that, don't you? Brutality, violence, enslavement. Hitler in World War II, our Germany in World War I, again, united as the great Aryan race and did horrible things to people of other races. And the United Soviet Socialist Republic. See, this is before your time, young blood. But there was a man by the name of Khrushchev, and he was pounding on the desk there at the United Nations talking about how they were going to overrun the United States. It's not a good thing when people are one and concerned about their name being great. And it's a scary thing for our country, too, because there's a lot of things in our history where we're concerned about the name of the United States being great. And we were united in whatever it was we were united in. And we brought a lot of harm to the people around us. So what's God going to do about it?
So it's not about our name. It's about God's name. It should be.
Yep. And when it's about us and about our unity, then there's problems.
Because this isn't a compliment. There's no limit to what they can do. Yep. Really, there's no limit to their sin, no limit to their depravity and their evil. And God wants to curtail that, rein them in. Okay. Let's see. Verse 7. Come, let us go down and confuse their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord dispersed them from over the whole face of the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore, the name will be called Babel, because the Lord confused the language of all the earth. And from there, the Lord dispersed them over the face of all the earth.
And, you know, there's a passage in the Proverbs where it says what the wicked fear is what they get. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah. I would say a word in defense of God. I mean, he could have sent an earthquake. He could have left their city and their tower in rubble. He could have sent a hurricane or a tornado and blown it all away. He actually deals with them in a certain amount of grace and mercy, if you think about it, that he just speaks his word and confuses their language so they cannot continue the evil that they would do. And in fact, they do what he told them to do. They get dispersed over all the world. But that's kind of ends on a sad note, that God has brought his punishment. He's come down in his wrath, although, again, I would suggest it is done in love and mercy. It was to try to prevent greater evils. I think of the fact that he does do that. He does do that. We may think he hasn't come down in our world with all the troubles and trials we had, but we're not fighting Nazis anymore. And the English Empire is exactly what happened here. They are now all divided up into many smaller countries and many different languages. The great United Soviet Socialist Republic, same thing. It's just divided up into a whole bunch of different nations now with different languages. God, trust me, people, if there's some evil that is besetting you, you just be patient. You pray, you wait on the Lord. He will come. He will disperse the enemies. But we hope he does something more than that, and that will be our subject next week. Right, Matt?
Good. Yeah, how does this connect to the rest of the Bible? We talked about that earlier, right? The context.
I think I can tell them, particularly how does it connect to Pentecost.
Good. Yeah, the Pentecost. So we'll look at Pentecost in particular next week as we look at the many nations all the way back from Babel and how God perhaps doesn't disperse, but in some respects brings together.
So he both reverses the curse and yet doesn't reverse the curse. Yeah. Okay. And Matt's really dumb thing. That's what we're excited
it's reason
about.
Enough to tune in
Matt's
to
really dumb thing next
Wrestling
week
the Basics.
on
Wrestling with the Basics.